you ready for a change?
I am talking to you.
Then get ready to explore the quantum possibilities. It's time to transform that outdated paradigm into something universal and new. Time to uncover the truth hidden beneath the veil of lies. A time to think outside the box as we link to a higher consciousness. Welcome to the awakening. And now the hosts of Broadcast Team Alpha, Nori Love and Augie Nost.
Well, hello, wishful watchers. Aren't we all wishful watchers tonight? Wow, I'm so happy to be here, especially tonight with you guys. You know, it's January 19th. And other than National Popcorn Day, you know, it's a pretty pivotal night, right? So just talking about our wishfulness, you know, the energies have changed so massively, and they are accelerating and changing right before our eyes. So I choose to hang on to the truth that intentions do become made manifest. So just before we get started, I'm just going to do like a 2-minute well-being thing, because that's pretty much my world. And you know, it's so important to take care of ourselves during these changing times. I mean, some of us are stunned. Some of us are recovering from being stunned. Some of us are on the other side of being stunned going, wow, we got stunned by this. And then some people don't really know that anything's going on. Now, I don't know how they don't know, but, you know, if that's their ignorance and that's their bliss, then that's okay. But we need right now to take the time and choose to put the relationship with ourself first. Because when you put the relationship with yourself first, then you're available for everybody else that needs you. And I know that I'm on overtime, and so are many of my friends. You know, we're on overtime helping other people get through the various degrees of awakening. So especially if you're on the front lines, you know, please make sure you drink water, put lemon slices in it. You know, I mean, I'm guilty. I ate 3/4 of a box of Good and Plenty, which I normally don't do, but it's intense right now. So please take care of yourself. Now, I'm not going to say another word about that because I am so excited about our guest tonight. I know. Augie, please tell us about our guest tonight.
Oh, yes. We have Laura Eisenhower with us. And I know that just about everybody knows her.
Yeah.
She is a global alchemist, a cosmic mythologist, and an astrologist, and an international sought-after speaker on radio shows, TV shows, and conferences, and wherever else people might get together. Laura is the great-granddaughter of President Dwight D. Eisenhower. She is a leading researcher on health, exopolitics, alchemy, metaphysics, and galactic history. Now, Laura works to free us from the 3D holographic time loop and the false archaic system of lockdown control of the people. And I've been known to be a little long-winded on the introduction, so I'm not going to do that this time because we want to hear from Laura. So, Laura, welcome to the show.
Welcome, Laura. Seriously.
Thank you so much for having me. It's really great to be here. Especially it's kind of with what's going down currently. It's great to spend time with both of you and be in your presence and talk about what's happening.
It's so great. And really, I was talking to Augie earlier, and I'm like, my first question to Laura, and I'm going to clean it up, is what the frig is going on? What the frig is really, really going on, Laura? Please. I have heard so many possibilities. What is really going on?
Well, I mean, I think this is a time to break free of the matrix programs. I think it's getting really obvious to people that something is going on beyond just having a political affiliation or just supporting a president. And I mean, there's a lot of different types of people. You got the ones that are sort of confused and they got a foot in both worlds. as far as the awakening process. Then you got the ones that are like die hard, like really cheering on their enslavement and wanting to like go to war and go after people, and just literally like expressing the mainstream narrative Mockingbird media programs, and being really arrogant and proud of it. And then you got ones that are just so beyond all of that, that really aren't on either side, that might relate to the word patriot and might think Donald Trump's a good, candidate or a person, or he did a good job because, they can sense that there's something different going on here. And he's not somebody that's owned by the right or left. Not to say that he doesn't have his issues, or he might be compromised to a certain degree. So I think that the final sort of piece of our awakening is to be sovereign, be empowered, and recognize that just really connecting with the earth energies, God's source, and who we truly are and what we're made of is the best thing that we can fall back on to gain a greater sense of trust in that. Or else we're just going to get pulled into this entanglement of energy and get really drained by it. Not to say that it means that one needs to lose support of whatever they feel aligned with, but that old paradigm of giving our power away, I feel is the greatest breakthrough that we need to embrace.
Right. But it's so hard. I really started with this question is it's really hard to know what the heck to believe in right now. So I just choose, my life right now is busy helping others, which I love to do. And then trying to keep, a little bit of a pulse on what's going on in the various arenas, weighing through that, right? Feeling into that. What do I really feel is true? And having my own moments of just having a really good cry because it's really intense.
Oh gosh, I've been so emotional the last couple of days. Yeah. And it's always been that way. I mean, it's just part of the energy maintenance as far as I'm concerned. Some of us are just very sensitive and empathic and very invested in seeing, humanity, take a huge leap in consciousness and really begin to move into these higher earth energies. And so I just feel like, with the information warfare going on, it's forcing us to fall back on ourselves and to tap into our creative imagination, our great human potential and our sovereignty, and then kind of come back maybe to it. But we have to first really anchor into it. And it's very easy to lose our space with it. Right. Because, we go out into town and we see people masked and we see family members maybe taking vaccinations. And it's not something we can just easily detach from and be like, oh, okay, it's over there and we're over here. I feel like timeline bifurcation still has a lot of bridges and a lot of connections because, we're not ready to leave people in the dust. And there's friends and family we care about. And a lot of us have a strong mission to help as many souls as possible while we still can. But yeah, this assimilation into AI and this total compliancy to the point where people act like deputies and they're going to snitch on their neighbor. It's like, and they're calling people terrorists while they're the ones spewing hatred and inciting violence. The way the media protects them because they support a particular party, the biasness is, really stemming from, Mockingbird, Project Paperclip, and the things that happened after the Second World War, where people don't realize that history has been rewritten. They might tell students, oh yeah, we won the war, but no, it turned into a war on consciousness, and we didn't quite fully win the war. And this is the final piece: is that we have to, take hold of our spiritual energies and our creative power and our intent, and live by higher virtues, and really, just really divorce ourselves from the matrix. Mm-hmm. As much as you might want to try and enlighten it, and the people that are, trapped in it, there's a certain point where it's too detrimental, and doesn't mean that, anybody's abandoned. There'll always be spirit guides and there'll always be some level of assistance, but it's really not safe to interact in this field anymore, I feel.
Yeah, good point. And you said something before, you talked about our creative imagination. So how do we get our power back through the creative imagination? What can you speak to about that? I think it's important.
Yeah. Well, I think it's important that we stay engaged in a goal, a vision, or a dream. We allow our creative energy to stay inspired and aligned with the things that we want to build or create, and just, stay in, that ultimate connection with our authenticity and our connection with our higher awareness and invite it into our physical lifestyle and just really live in sort of commitment and devotion to it. And I feel it helps to build our auric field to, neutralize dark weaponry and all these different assaults that are trying to come in. The more we just stay engaged in our own creative flow, because the propaganda and these dark agendas really, I feel, seek to infect our creative channel so that we become a part of enabling it without realizing it, because it ends up becoming harvested, it ends up being loose, it ends up being siphoned. And this is what these dark technologies and these reversal programs seek to do, is drop us in fear and anxiety and the divide and conquer. And then it's like the archons are like, thank you so much, because we feed on
fear. Absolutely. It's so interesting. Go ahead, Augie. Go ahead. I've been hogging.
Okay, I was just thinking loud for myself here. Nobody else heard it. We're hearing so many people out there. They claim to have inside information about what's going on and what's going to happen. And we don't really know what to expect up and beyond what they are talking about. And then we have high-ranking generals and military officers coming forward and say, don't worry, it will be okay. So I'm going with that. It's going to be okay, because Nori and I in our mastermind group and Laura here, for a good while now, we have been programming the universe and the future for these good things to happen. So it must, even if there were a surprise tomorrow, it's not the end of it. It's not over yet. So I want to say that to the ones that say, if he gets in, then we lost the country. No, we haven't. There is more. It's not over yet, because the human potential and the power of the mind can change things in midstream at any time, and we can do that if we get our minds together. And that's the end of... What do you think, Laura?
Totally. Absolutely agree. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Nori. What were you going to say?
No, I was just going to say, just to back up what Augie was saying, we've been masterminding for how many months has it been? I mean, it's been like 6 or 7 months, right?
Yeah.
We have been masterminding, visualizing with some of the most purest intent people, just amazing human beings, amazing spiritual beings, every Sunday. And we're envisioning peace. We're envisioning peace so pervasive that we feel it, before we end the meditation. And, something happened today that was really unusual. I have Reiki a couple of times a week. And today I had somebody that was holding space for me. She's a very powerful being. And I didn't know she was, but I guess in the ethers, we kind of coordinated. And when I was doing distance Reiki, it's like I flooded the whole universe with the Reiki symbols today. I've never done anything like that. Wow. And I thought, wow, where'd that come from? But do you think it'll help, Laura?
What did you say?
Do you think it'll help?
Absolutely. I mean, that's the whole thing. It's like when there's nothing very different about our micro world and how we manage it, and how we deal with the macro world. We're dealing with oppressive forces and control forces very often in our own personal lives. We might be in an abusive relationship or a toxic relationship, or maybe our family members don't understand us and it messes with our head, or maybe we feel like just to make people happy, we're just going to give our power away. So in our own personal lives, this is where we win the greater war. Within ourselves, we win the greater war, because basically, it's really a war on consciousness. And it has to do with control and, dropping us into a low vibration to then utilize the AI to mimic and train itself into it to simulate, a false reality that ends up hooking us in and keeping us in a negative pattern loop or negative feedback loop. But when we realize, wait a second, I don't need to be in this relationship anymore. I can cut the ties with this. This is abusive. This is wrong. I do not support it. And if we're willing to take that greater risk, or not greater risk, but when we're willing to take the risk of saying, this isn't giving me anything, it's tricking me into thinking that I need it for my own survival, or these dependency bonds, when a person just really determines, I'm just going to break away and break free. I mean, this is what we're going through on a collective level with the Dark Cabal and all their different tactics. And these are things that we need to do in our own lives. So it's really no different. And when we take a stand in our own lives, then we share that higher energy and that breakthrough and that victory with the collective. And, the fact that you're bringing all that energy into the collective gives people that might be hooked into AI, another chance to just maybe see it differently or find that other perspective that is available in the, not just the planetary grid network, but the energy field that exists. And then we got the cosmos and the planetary consciousness, which is always guiding us forward to help advance us and help nurture us and give us that unconditional love. So this matrix net that is based in reversals, that has captured us like a spider web, that convinces people that maybe there's something they're not, or this is what you need to do to feel good about yourself, and all this manipulation of the personality matrix through mind control and social engineering and, big tech and fake news and social media being biased. People need to just kind of like realize, like, I can cut those cords. I don't need to be a part of this like destructive, relationship. Exactly. And that's a lot of times people, they have those breakthroughs when they're like, these friends are toxic. They put me down. They don't make me feel good. And this relationship is messing with my head. And so we have to be heroes and create victories in our own personal life to overcome that, and also injury and disease and, all sorts of adversities. But that's part of becoming a spiritual athlete and recognizing that we're not victims. This is giving us unbelievable strength, and in feeling confident about the fact that, this can build spiritual muscle and can make us or push us into greater self-awareness instead of getting further pulled away from who we truly are. Because the medical industry and most things, when we are going through a tough time, loves to take advantage of that and actually disempower us and disconnect us even more with pharmacies or pharmaceuticals, or here's your diagnosis, here's your label. But in the time of adversity, we have to realize, just like in the here and now that we're dealing with, these are opportunities to get to know ourselves better, get to know our strength, and really tap into the inspiration and warrior spirit energy. And then when we can do that and we start to leap over those obstacles and we start to realize it doesn't need to hook into us, because we don't need to form a relationship with it out of fear or feeling like there's no other option. That's when we create that, divorce, and we start to move into that timeline that is guiding us towards true love. And when I say that, it's the true love within ourselves, it's finding soul family, and it's that true love with like the universal forces, cosmic natural law, and like what everything is truly made of, where it's an authentic co-creation instead of, victim perpetrator or, predator.
The drama triangle, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
And our technologies have been, and media and everything has been these programs that are like literally, targeting sacred union, targeting communities working well together. The conquer and divide is rampant within all the power structures, those kind of programs.
Yes. So we got a question from the chat room. I wanted to ask you one thing before we move on to that. You mentioned becoming spiritual athletes. I love that term. Love it. Because I am watching, I don't want to see it, but I'm seeing it, and I was part of it. So many people meet with sickness, accidents, freak accidents. How is that a part of the dark energies, hooking us in? What is that?
Well, sometimes I feel, it's not always going to be the same, but I feel it can guide a person to, sort of the same kind of place. So there can be an attack on a light worker or somebody who's doing really great, and they're doing everything right. Perhaps maybe they have the best sort of nutritional protocol that they follow every day. They're getting a lot of exercise. They might be doing yoga, working on their relationship stuff. But it's like when we start to move beyond the seventh chakra, that's usually when psychic attack happens, no matter where a person's at. It's just they don't want people to move beyond that. And they have technology that can measure a person's frequency. So if they start to notice that somebody's leaving that net or leaving that encasement in this sort of prison planet scenario, that's when they're going to ramp up sort of the psychic attack. And that might result in injury or illness. But then you got, this other scenario where a person needs those things in order to wake up. They need that adversity to step away a little bit and maybe get the opportunity to see reality through a different lens and begin to tap into their healing powers and abilities. It's like when a doctor says you'll never be able to walk again, there's a special few that says, oh yeah, watch me. And they walk.
I love that.
It's like when somebody says, no, you can't. Or
yes, I can.
That either can control the brain to say, okay, you're right. Or it can push a person into saying, you know what? I don't think so. And so this is the kind of choice we're facing with like COVID and masks and everything that I feel we're seeing is pushing people to the edge to make that, sort of decision. Can you defy these things? Can you prove them wrong? But not, just for the sake of proving them wrong. Right. Can you rescue yourself in the face of this? Where a lot of people, go the other way. They comply. They're in fear. They're in survival. They can't access their intuition anymore. And then, these dark technologies, these archonic forces and whatever is streaming through really has a hold on them. But sometimes, everybody creates that event in their life that helps them to be like, whoa, okay, what was I thinking? What was I doing? And we got to trust that everybody, has their own unique soul journey that will bring on those sort of events that can facilitate that level of awakening. And if it doesn't happen, to me, source energy is unconditional and there's never any soul left behind. But we can only abandon these resources and these, incredible like forces and energies like God's source. It'll never abandon us though. And but the thing is, when one is unconsciously abandoning it because of the programs or just thinking that they're doing the right thing for the sake of being a good citizen in society and following the rules, those people are so well-intentioned. It's like the same thing as a person going off to war and not realizing that the war wasn't being fought for the reasons that they thought. And that can be a very painful realization that, wow, I went to war thinking that this is what I was fighting the war for. And basically this is like a false flag connected to the dark cabal and how, they've created a lot of world wars in order to, really, harm us so that we would have a very difficult time in this particular ascension window period. We have to know that our virtues and our values speak louder than our choices. If our intent was good, then we got to forgive ourselves for maybe the mistakes based in, maybe putting our trust in the wrong places. But that's an innocent mistake, I feel, that's easily like cleared and forgiven.
That's so good.
Oh, absolutely.
So do you think, I'm just playing like what if, do you think the people who become spiritual athletes when they're getting to the seventh chakra, is there a way to scramble your energy so they can't tell? So they can't tell that you're reaching those new heights?
Oh, that's a tough one. That's a great question. I've always wondered that. I'm like, wow, I'm feeling really, like just such high energy, and it's not just coming through thought forms. I'm just feeling the bliss. I'm feeling that connection to God's source, and I'm feeling, really elevated. And that's usually when something comes along and like pulls the carpet from underneath me.
Right. We got only about 10 seconds left for the show. Let's go to break.
Okay, yeah.
I'll be right back with Laura.
Awesome.
This is the Broadcast Team Alpha Show, hosted by Nori Love and Augie Nost. The one show that takes your doubts of the unknown and spins them into reality. Share your thoughts by calling our hotline number at 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230.
Call now.
Worldwide callers use Skype name KCOR Radio. More cutting-edge conversation and exploration of the quantum universe after this.
Going live.
Come explore the quantum possibilities. This is Broadcast Team Alpha.
Broadcast Team Alpha.
To be on the show live, call 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230. Worldwide callers use Skype name KCOR Radio. Share your thoughts of the show on Twitter at KCOR Radio, #KCOR. Or join the cutting edge conversation live in our chat room at www.kcorradio.com. Now back to Broadcast Team Alpha with your free thinking hosts, Nori Love and Aginas.
Well, yay, everybody. One of my favorite times. Chat room shouties. We have the amazing, beautiful, rich and famous Tina Marie. Hi, and Daku. Now, Daku doesn't have a question mark, or didn't you used to have a question mark, Daku? It was. So he changed that into 2 slashes. 5 is here. Gail is here. Haha is here. Iowa Girl. Hello. JB is here. JC is here. Joe is here. Joe Marco. Hi, John. Karen's here. Lisa. Me again is here. Hi, Naj. I saw your comment. Parks Cake is here. Rob is here. Of course, the amazing, beautiful, rich and famous Shade Do is here. Wave Rider's here. Yappy is here. And if I missed you, please forgive me. I think I said Karen. So we were talking about, well, are we going to go back to that, or you just want to go to the question in the chat room, guys? Augie?
Okay, I'm sorry. I muted myself.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I did it again. I would think, well, it's up to Laura if she want to elaborate on the last what she was talking about, or go to this question in here. That would be good too.
Yeah, if you guys, whatever you want me to answer, just if you can reiterate just a bit of it.
Sure. Well, we were talking about scrambling our signal, and I think you talked about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I mean. Yeah.
Maybe that could be a way to just surround ourselves in a bubble and in bright white light that the negative energies cannot penetrate. Could that maybe work, something like that?
Well, yeah. I mean, we have to invoke things. We need to use our throat chakra. Our throat chakra creates reality. And that's when I feel we move into the 5D, when we are more empowered in the words that we share, when it comes from our truth, when it comes from our intent, when it comes from just our, like we were talking about, our creative imagination, where we can visualize something and we can really feel into a possibility and own it enough to be able to manifest it. I mean, we have those abilities. So if we want to be somewhat cloaked, if we want, the extra protection, not only that, but we can also manifest through synchronicities, great tools and modalities, coming in the form of maybe EMF protection or essential oils, or, different things that we can do to, create that kind of shielding. And people talk about Faraday cages and other methods, and that, I'm not an expert in that kind of thing. And I know about the negative use of that kind of thing, but anything can be used for the good or for the not good. That's kind of what kind of choices we have in this somewhat free will universe, even though we're dealing with a lot of control. But once we wake up, that's when the free will really starts to switch on. Invocation, using our voice, saying, I am sovereign. I break all agreements with any entity or any being that I have some of those on my website that just really claim sovereignty. And there are levels that they cannot access. And that's why ultimately they'll be defeated. And but it's such a game as far as how they play with our minds, our wounds, our dreams. I mean, they try and find the extreme of polarity. Our greatest hopes and dreams and our greatest wounds and traumas. It's those are the places that they can mess with us. If we can find that center point within ourselves and just integrate the light and dark within ourselves, then we don't get caught into the outer light and dark, which is very much false light, and then the fear of the dark. And then the fear of the dark means fear of the self, when in actual fact, the false light is hiding the most horrific of darkness and the worst of crimes against humanity. So we've got to break those bonds in order to, be really sovereign and well functioning in the beautiful blessing of what this human vessel has to offer us. And also ego. And ego can get easily led astray because it's really looking for instant gratification a lot of times. But when we can, take that extra time or commit to that extra work, like we were talking about with the spiritual athlete thing, we can begin to align our ego with our higher awareness and become in service to that and invite it fully into our life. And that's when we start to activate people. And that's when we start to speak truth. And that frequency inspires people. I mean, when we share healing words and truth, it can put a person in tears and it can shift them and throw them into a growth period. But when we're in the mind control bubble, a lot of times people are throwing around a lot of really horrible words, and they think that they're coming from a good place. And it's very, very misaligned and very much a part of the program. Like we hear with the white privilege, or you're a racist, you're a fascist, or, or you're this, you're that, without knowing the person with it, just because of this race war card being played right now and how they're trying to yank people back into that, lower place. And I'm a little shocked that it's working on so many people, but I feel like, the greater majority is not falling for it.
Thank God. Absolutely. And for those of you out there that joined us late in the show, we are talking with Laura Eisenhower, and we have been pointing out some of the problems in the world, but we are going to talk more about solutions also. So I just want to put that in there because it's important.
Or in America, she could be known as Laura Eisenhower.
What did I say?
Eisenhower.
Eisenhower. Oh, okay.
I think I should.
He's saying it Norwegian style.
Yeah,
I like it too. Yeah.
I guess that's how you would say it over in Norway. I'm sorry.
I know. It's very cute. It's very cute, actually. So I have a question with everything that you said, Laura. Do you think they understand light language?
Like the cabal kind of energy?
Yeah, I mean, could that be like scrambling your signal? Well,
they scrambled our, DNA. If we're in a lower functioning DNA and the rest of it is junk, how are they able to access those higher levels and make it junk? Well, the junk to me is the propaganda, the indoctrination, the programmings, the trauma that we've experienced through war, separation from family, and Holocaust and genocides that have affected so many different races and groups and root races in order to make it very difficult for us to come together and actually rebuild the structure of our DNA and reclaim that junk DNA. So they can't really access it when we're kind of in our sovereignty and we're not getting pulled into it, but we're born into it. So we can't help but get pulled into it. So it's a part of how we're helping humanity to heal is okay, we can face this stuff. We can see what it's attempting to do, and we can become the override frequency and counteract it. There's a lot of grid workers that have come to the planet, a lot of starseed missions, and a lot of higher benevolent groups that are working with us to help us to understand what all these different levels are. So what it's targeting on the human level is things like sacred union. Sacred union and the electromagnetic energies that also relate to the earth grids is how we rebuild the DNA. But if they can, put us in front of the TV and, kind of give us these magazines in Hollywood to begin to lose that spiritual essence and knowingness, that amplifies a junk DNA that doesn't have to be junk. So to me, the propaganda and the mind control and social engineering holds the codes of the scrambled fire codes. But when we can shut it down, go into nature and just realize, whoa, this is very foreign. This doesn't feel right. Even though we might be raised in it and it might become our version of normal, or this is what it means to be human, we have to be brave enough to say, this doesn't feel right. And if it was a correct program or structure, would we have as much disease and injustice that we have on the planet? I mean, we're not here to be sick and, completely out of whack in the way that we are. I mean, we might need this experience in order to reclaim our treasures. I mean, that's part of what this whole experience is about to me. Spiritual and soul development. But yeah, I mean, we can embody, something and be that override frequency and begin to activate people, even if we're not cloaked. Yeah, they can target, but the thing is we can't take those targets personally. And that's how we overcome it. So we either cloak ourselves or we shine our light and accept the fact that it's going to come with some level of attack. But the greater attack is when we're unconscious, when we're in fear or anxiety, or we're buying into the programming. Then it's an unconscious attack that a person doesn't even realize is happening. They don't realize the entity attachments that they have. And they're just like walking around just thinking this is what, being human is all about. And so, people that can read energy would be like, man, that person's like loaded up with entities. Then you got your awakening person that's going to deal with sort of the same sort of thing where they're like, oh, we're not going to let you go that easy.
That's right.
And then
That's
they might feel defeated on their spiritual path. Like, oh, I'm doing all these things to better myself. And now I feel defeated because everybody's turning on me and my friends hate me. And one has to breathe through that and just keep moving through that and not take it personally. So, whichever side a person's on, whether they're like full on, like ready to awaken or already held those codes and really came in with a strong mission, they have to deal with a certain level of attack. And then the unconscious people need to question everything they've ever learned, even if they don't realize that there's attachments, even though they think everything might seem somewhat normal or they're just functioning in society, they need to say, maybe this isn't the real deal. So everybody has something to work on, no matter where we land. And what I've loved about learning about astrology is that our unique charts that we have give us like, okay, here's the elemental energies and the patternings that we're here to work on. Same with the parents we're born into, ancestral patterns, or any of the adversities that we go through. This is our job. This is our work. This is our priority to give it attention. But the culture and society pulls us out of that. It's like, get this degree, do this and do that. And that's all great too. Don't get me wrong, but there has to be a balance. And same thing with like technological advancement and spiritual advancement. There has to be both.
Yes. So go ahead.
Go ahead. Oh, okay. Yeah, you were mentioning junk DNA, and actually some of that junk DNA is not junk at all, because even though that it may look like that finger coming off the strand, the two, the helix don't look like it is attached to anything, it may have a purpose, and we can access that through epigenetics, where we can actually put it to work and do wonderful things for us if we start imagining and creating our world that we want to live in our mind first. I think that's kind of important to think about.
Oh, totally. And I can't wait to interview you, because we were touching upon that kind of thing in the last conversation we had. And yeah, what I've learned about, junk DNA, absolutely it's not junk. About 5,500 years ago is when we really lost our galactic memories, and our DNA just turned into this sort of junk thing. But I mean, that's just like propaganda. It's like, oh, that's junk. So the science teacher will tell you that's junk DNA. But in actual fact, it's the rebuilding of our, DNA architecture. And it has to do with sacred union, alchemical marriage, hierogamic union, and the Christ-Sophia template, or whatever. Regardless of the names, that union within ourselves, and that awakening of the divine blueprint. And actually the Earth grids, the planetary grid network, holds all of this. And that's the real Gaia circuitry and nervous system. But the archonic overlay and the false matrix has put it all in reversal codes to create digression, and for them to, feed on this Baphomet energy and to siphon and harvest our energies in order to, disempower humans so that they can take the energy that we're not holding within ourselves for themselves to supplement themselves with. And they do that with adrenochrome. They feed on the innocence because they've lost connection with God's source. Right. And it's very sick and very disturbing. And I will never get used to it. I just came across a page on Gab that was all about selling adrenochrome. It talks about hunting games. It talked about locations where this is happening. And it's, a place that's not monitored. So it's almost like a dark web. And I'm like, everybody's moving over to Gab because they're getting censored from Facebook and Twitter. But it's like, oh, this is gross and creepy. Wow. And it was very disturbing. I couldn't sleep all night. And it just really devastating. But, at the same time, I know that stuff exists. But it doesn't mean it's easy to cope with when it's right there staring you in the face. So
it isn't. Yeah. So there is the question from Yappy in our chat room. Does AI become sentient also over time?
I feel like AI is part of the mind computer and part of, it's a portion of who we are. Our brains are like a computer. the AI would be, oh, okay, well, we can mimic this. We can simulate this, or we can, create a reality over or around the whole concept of self-identity, especially with humans that keep incarnating with amnesia and don't have any reference of who they truly could be because they've lost their galactic memories or they're not holding that 12-strand capacity anymore. And that has a lot to do with so many things: hybridization programs, exploded planets, cataclysms that happen on this planet that really put us in a difficult place, and the dark technologies that created these reversals. So the minute we're born, through osmosis, we pick up on that. And then, of course, all the intrusion from media, television, and all the weaponry or weaponization of cultural, pop culture and things that people are like, oh, yeah, that's really cool. And this is so trendy. And they're just in their little superficial bubble. And they're in the personality matrix. But so that's, to me, the AI part of it. That's where we're most easily entrained, because it targets our self-esteem. School systems target our self-esteem. They're not going to look out for the starseeds. You're not going to find a guidance counselor that's going to point out who the possible medicine women are, or shamans, or starseed missions. No, it's like you're either going to be this or that in life. And if you get a bad grade, you must have a learning disability, and maybe you should go on this drug. It's like, I mean, we're everything's pretty stacked against us from the get-go. And so when a person says, I have greater worth than that, even though this is like really painful, one can step away from it. And I went through that. It's like, I'm going off into the wilderness for a couple of years. This is BS. Thank God I didn't drop I'm trying not to swear, but it's all embedded in our culture to block those sort of things from coming in. So it takes a bit of strength, and sometimes that strength can come and go. So when we move beyond the personality matrix and we step into the soul matrix, that is actually when we start to move into 5D. When we're in our soul essence and we're connecting to something much more deep, we meet soulmates, soul family, and our words bring substance. Great musicians or poets, or those that speak truth, that really inspire people, are already there. So we're dealing with a humanity where not everybody's at the same level. You got some people floating up in way, way higher energies, and they cannot get into their physical body. And they might even have a physical ailment because they feel so disconnected from the physical plane because it's too painful to be here. Yeah. So our greater work is in unity consciousness, rehabilitating and connecting with one another so that we can all put our gifts and abilities together and share maybe our strengths, and also hold space and help one another overcome what might seem to be a weakness, but to me, it's just something dormant that hasn't been switched on, and it's not a weakness. That's just a mind control game. And then together, we build all this stuff, and that connects to the 7 root races, the 5 cloister races, and how that relates to the true structure of our DNA, and how that junk DNA connects with higher harmonic universes, all the way back to Lyra, that we're literally rewinding our galactic history in order to repair all these galactic wars, to get back to center, get back to source, that 0-point unified field, which is also like, really the Milky Way and Andromeda galactic cores one again with each other. And that's what this ascension window period is all about. And what I've learned about this ascension window period is that is exactly what has been happening. The sun started to move through the 13th sign of Theicus in 2010. It was a major timeline shift. The ether energy started to come in. The Venus transits created the corrections to turn the symbolic, metaphorical sort of inverted pentagram around so that we can begin to connect with the ether again and purify our nucleic acids in our DNA, begin to get in touch with the mother energy, connect with the earth, and switch on our dormant abilities. And so transhumanism and AI wants to keep us in the personality matrix and mess with our heads, which we see in social media and all this different propaganda, so that we don't take that leap. And we need to take this leap, and we need to do it now. So
Right. Well, and you were talking about how we can, rehabilitate and connect. And isn't it exactly what is against us right now, right? I mean, they're, 6 feet apart, masks, only 10 people together. I mean, it's the perfect plan to keep us separate.
Oh. Yes, absolutely. Everything about what the growth period is right now for humanity is exactly what they're targeting. And they've been doing this for so long. So masking is like the north and south node right now, which are transiting that everybody's experiencing, is the Gemini Sagittarius north and south node. The south node, Sagittarius, the north node, Gemini. Has everything to do with information, throat chakra, being connected enough to our wisdom body to be able to, speak truth. So they're like, oh. No, we're just going to put masks on that and let's create fear of a disease. Because this window is also about the Saturn-Pluto conjunction and all this stuff going on with the planet Pluto. And they're just trying to, stunt our growth so that we don't complete the transformation process. We fear it instead. We fear viruses. And the thing is, we can dissolve all the things that we're fearing when we get in touch with the frequency of truth that, can obliterate it. I mean, in ancient times, words of power. I'm not talking about hokey magic, but you say the right words and it's encoded in the right way, you can literally undo something very damaging. And the way that a frequency has been coded in order to create digression in the body or illness or sickness, it's like, wow, well, the mind can overcome that real easy if you're not caught in the program and actually neutralize it and obliterate it. Same with any of the dark weaponry, like with chemtrails and even, 5G. So we have to realize that all these things are pushing us to the edge to reclaim these treasures. But instead, people are like, they just kind of curl up and they're like, and that's fine. And for some, that might be where they need to be. And I wouldn't say like need to, but I mean, it's unfortunate. But God source and mother energy never abandons any soul. But it's like, there's got to be a point in which somebody has that epiphany that says, whoa, now I get it. And I'm going to connect and I'm ready to heal. And I feel that is powerful enough to heal from even the vaccines and the mark of the beast. I just don't feel like anybody is destined to be screwed over just because they didn't know, because we've been so messed with and it's not okay. And I'm not into victim consciousness, but I mean, so many well-intentioned people that just, because of the amnesia, because of all these different tactics, really don't know what they're doing. And do they deserve to, be turned into like some cyborg EBE or, hive mind? No, I don't believe that at all.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and right now I feel like I want to give the listeners a little bit of homework, because we have to visualize good things coming out of Washington tomorrow, because the world is in the balance tonight. So we need to concentrate on something good coming out of Washington with freedom and opportunity. And beyond that, it's up to us to visualize what we want. And gosh, the hour is gone, Laura. We only have 2 minutes left. Let people know where they can get a hold of you and where they can make contact.
Awesome. Well, thanks first off for having me. My website is cosmicgaia.org. I have subscriptions there, and I know we're going to plan an event, and so we'll give you guys information about that. But the most important thing is just be creative. When you get stressed, tap into art and music and just push through these barriers, and don't ever think you don't have talent or gifts or abilities. We all hit creative blocks, but I mean, that's a part of being the spiritual athlete. You jump over those blocks, you bust through those blocks. Everybody has access to amazing gifts and abilities on a healing level, on a creative level, and God's source is here for all of us. And we're all the chosen one. Love and wisdom is the chosen one. Once we tap into that frequency, we'll start to see incredible things happen. And so hopefully on a collective level, we'll see that help to create some beautiful breakthroughs. And yes, holding that intention, just like you said.
Yes.
Days to come.
Laura, thank you. My goodness, thank you. I'm just so hugging you right now. Thank you.
Yeah.
Guys, thank you for having me.
Let's do this again, Laura. Let's do another show.
This is just the beginning of so much, and I'm going to interview you next, and we're going to create an event, and I'm just so happy to be aligned with you both. I mean, you're just incredible beings, and I'm so blessed and grateful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next week. Thanks, Laura.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
You've been listening to Broadcast Team Alpha.
Broadcast Team Alpha.
Hosted by Nori Love and Augie Nost. Every Tuesday night at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern, exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. The balance of power is shifting to a new paradigm. Will you be ready? For more information on Broadcast Team Alpha, as well as the hosts, Nori Love and Augie Nost, please visit their website at broadcastteamalpha.com. Until next week, remember to keep those minds open while always exploring the endless quantum possibilities.
Broadcast Team Alpha, over and out.
This is KCOR Las Vegas, home of the Digital Radio Network, broadcasting from a shack just south of Area 51.
Wait, that doesn't exist.
This is the KCOR Digital Radio Network. Now for the news.